decided I made a really interesting choice as an actor this morning when I was waking up at our tech rehearsal sorry, Steven's like sexy dancing with the blinds.
Yeah, Steven just
I just call it dancing.
I don't know.
Steven just lowered the blinds for...
I'm trying to create some ambiance, but then it was like suddenly very
Too dark.
scary, and I couldn't see any of your beautiful faces, and I was like, no, I look like a total psychopath. Or I'm like
a real pervert.
I do it all in the dark, like love making.
Wait, why is that funny?
Yeah,
Just kidding.
just a quick show of hands. What's everybody's like light situation when they fuck?
Well, I can't communicate that with my hands, but I will lights off. It's got to be lights off for the most part. Well, 50-50, but leaning lights off.
I like soft lighting. Like I don't like the overhead light to be on. That's a little
but like a little cool,
abrasive,
like a lamp with like a cool 60 watt.
Sure. I don't know the science behind it, but just like the science behind light bulb wattage.
I have hue lights and I just put them on red.
I wilt if you leave me in direct sunlight too long. So if you could angle me away from the window, that would be good.
All right, I'm sorry to talk about sex lights. What were you, Emma? What were you saying before
I don't remember.
I derailed everything with my.
Oh, I was just talking about my choice to play a character in a sketch, Kramer-esque. But not really remembering what that meant. I was like, I gotta fall.
You just say the N-word.
I'm just trying to be racist.
Emma walked in and screamed the N-word.
He runs the door and he says the N-word. That's Kramer, right?
He's never worked again, right?
I think so.
Michael Richards?
Probably he's done something. I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, Hollywood does love to forgive a creep.
Loves a comeback story.
Remember when he apologized?
Yes. Letterman apology.
But take us through it.
That's what's so crazy about this. I'm not a racist.
He wasn't even in the room. He was on video, but Jerry Seinfeld was in the room with them, and the audience is howling laughing, and Jerry Seinfeld is, please don't laugh at my friend, doing objectively the funniest thing he'll ever do, which is sweat in front of a crowd of millions while he goes, really, I don't know why I said the N-word.
You ever noticed how your entire creative empire can crumble because your friend does something dumb? You ever noticed this? What's the deal? I can't do it. Someone's got to have one locked and loaded, a good Jerry impression. No.
Well, it's also
comedians in cars talking about how this affects all of us.
Adam, you're a stand-up. You love comedians in cars getting coffee.
I love comedians in cars getting coffee.
Shit.
I hate college audiences. College kids are only good for dating. That's the Seinfeld.
How do you feel about PC humor?
I think it's pretty cool to say all the racial slurs you want.
Hey, that's a great soundbite. Let's get this podcast started.
Yeah.
Welcome back to We Are Definitely Afraid of the Dark. This is the scary movie and racial sociopolitical commentary podcast for people who are scared of everything. I am Stephen Smith. I'm scared of everything.
And I'm Emma Holder, and I'm more scared of more things.
And I'm Kyle Romero, and I'm a big brave boy.
And we have a very special guest this week. Very funny man, stand-up comedian, podcaster, Adam Hrabik.
Yeah.
Look at me.
So confidently
You said
pronounced.
it very confidently.
Do I undercut myself by immediately patting myself on the back?
Well, if you were doing anything other than introing another person, then maybe not.
Maybe
but
not.
in this circumstance, it's not
But
great.
immediately bringing it back to you.
Adam, we have a storied history on this podcast of introducing somebody and then immediately turning to the three of us and just talk, and forgetting to bring them into the fold. But
I understand it because introducing something is like a genuine thing. You can't just ironically introduce something. You need to put something of yourself out there, so it makes sense to immediately like retreat into like, haha, wasn't that weird that we did that? What? I said his name.
It's very artificial, and it's like we're all sitting here, and that's like an artificial context. We all hung out for the last 2 hours, so it's weird to suddenly like give you a formal to literally ask you like, how do you want to be introduced? And also, how's your name pronounced?
And also, what lighting do you like when you have sex?
Do you ever like have to intro comics like for open mics and stuff like that?
Oh
or
yeah.
shows? Like, how do you do that? That is literally such a high wire act for me. It fills me with such anxiety.
I try to find the people and ask them how they want to be how do they want their name to be pronounced. It's a little trickier at an open mic because you'll see some names that you've never seen the names before. You don't know who the people are, even they are in the room. So
you have to sell it and make it seem genuine and like supportive.
Yeah, and a lot of times if they know they have a weird name, like I know I have a weird name, so I'll automatically when you ask me how to either spell my name or pronounce it, I'll do both for you. So a lot of people are good about that, but sometimes if you don't know and they don't tell you, you just kind of gotta go for it.
We're also all like extremely online, so I've seen your name a million times, and every time I kind of go like I kind of do it in my head, and I've been doing it wrong this entire time.
What were you saying?
Hrabik.
Yeah, that's what I was doing
really
too.
leaning into
I was leaning into
You
the
actually
H.
pronounce it.
Yeah,
like
I started to warm up to it.
My name has a stutter in front of it.
So you scared of shit?
Yes, but not movies. But a lot of real things.
Ooh, what you scared of?
Yeah, tell me what you're scared of.
I don't know what happens when we die, and I don't know if it's good or not and it makes me. It kind of freaks me out more that it could be good because then I might want that more.
Should we tell him?
Yeah, please tell me.
Okay,
what do we know? What do we know?
There's this NBC sitcom called The Good Place.
I was thinking about The Good Place.
Oh, and you get to watch it in heaven. Oh, I'm so there.
Christian heaven.
Jamila Jamil rules.
She's the
Is
best.
already getting
She is so awesome.
We have a dissenter potentially in the room who's not on mic. We'll
And
talk
we're not
about it
gonna mention
later.
her.
Yeah. Well, so I love her. I'm sorry. I love her. But in terms of your scaredness, that unnamed, unmiked guest gave us a little bit of an insight, I think, into
It's
your...
Nicole. It's Nicole Russell.
It's my 4th grade math teacher.
I like that.
He peed himself.
I love that sort of podcast mystery thing where they're like,
I'm
we'll
sorry.
talk about it when we're off the air. Wait, don't worry, we'll
Tell
just
me off
kibitz
the
about
air.
it when we're off. And then you're like, Hollywood's so glamorous. What are they talking about when they're
I
not
don't know.
recording?
I don't know if you guys do that, but when I hear somebody in a podcast do that, I still get a little excited. I'm like, ooh, after the episode, they're going to tell us.
Like, I want to know,
No, right, exactly.
what are all of
I'm
our
special.
our favorite alt comedy beefs? I want to know why Tom Sharpling and Paul F. Tompkins don't speak.
Steven,
Wait,
holy
what? They
shit.
don't?
I cannot believe you said this.
This is
This is
so
the
dumb.
first thing that popped in my head. We can't go down this path. We'll talk about it off mic.
If anybody's listening knows, please. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Well, so when Nicole,
Best show and best week ever don't get along.
when Nicole was on the podcast, she told us that you guys watch pretty like by my standards like fucked up movies, and that's like a fun date for you two.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, we watched a lot of horror movies when we first started dating, and that was my fault because I misread what she was trying to tell me. For some reason, I forget what actual information she conveyed to me because I just interpreted it as, oh, she loves horror movies. All right, well, I'm going to try and find some horror movies.
She was probably like, do you like horror movies? And I was like, yeah. And then all of you like this horror movies.
And I didn't, up until that point, I didn't watch that many horror movies, to be totally honest.
But you guys are like watching, but this like brought you together. It cemented your bond. Now you're watching the Purge movies. You have like homework, like romantic homework that you're doing together. That's very sweet. But like super graphic, violent. Like where do you like kind of fall in the spectrum of horror? Like
as far as what I like, or
what you like, yeah.
I don't shy from gore, but I also don't like the just gory movies. Like I like a well placed, shockingly bone jutting out of skin if it's like placed well. But I don't just want to okay, there's a movie on my list that we probably are not going to watch because it's already been vetoed, but it has a very graphic scene in it that really terrified me when I first saw it. Just because of how well it was built to.
Yeah. So I want to watch it. We'll get to it. We'll get into it. But it scares the bejesus out of me because everything I read about it. It's Green Room, I assume is what you're talking about.
Green Room is
okay. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
I can't. Do you know anything about that movie?
I read the wiki at one point.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
I read some interview with Patrick Stewart where he's like,
yes, that's the quote. I said we couldn't watch it because of that.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's scaring us this week.
Ooh, new segment. What's scaring ya?
We'll work on that. We need here's what I think. We need audio cues. We need like a nice little like bam, 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 for like what's scaring ya this week. And then also some audio to play when I butcher people's names. Thoughts?
I like it.
It's the same audio though.
We'll just have the same noise for everything.
So Em and I definitely have stuff that's scaring us this week. Adam, is anything scaring you this week other than the geopolitical climate in this country?
Jeff Bezos, who basically does not pay taxes, is now like, hey, I'm going to make a new network of preschools.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's an excellent choice.
Where the student is finally the customer. Yeah, it's the consumer.
He actually uses
you know what
the word
sucks
customer.
about being a kid is you don't get to be a customer yet. God, thank you.
Where do you spend your hard-earned capital?
I can't wait to teach my child to ask to speak to the manager.
White people. So, Kyle, anything scaring you?
That's a good one. That's probably the one that I would have said. But
he snatched it right from you.
Right out of my butt. What am I saying? So my cat started doing the staring thing that he never really used to do.
Creepy coming out of the closet.
Yeah, he's like right now like halfway in the
pantry. He's like oozing out right now.
Like a serial killer placed him and then he just flopped out.
He really likes to crawl behind the trash can for some reason, and I won't see him, and then I'll close the door and he'll just like start scratching an hour later.
He's trapped in there.
Anyway, he'll hop in the bathtub and just sit in the bathtub and stare at the corner in the bathtub.
Wait, while there's water in it?
No. It's empty bathtub.
He jumps in and takes a bath and just sits in the corner.
Yeah, he jumps in the bathtub fully clothed.
Yeah, you all right, man?
He's testing the temperature. I was doing a lot of physical.
A lot of good cat handwork.
What do you think he's staring at?
Well, see, that's a great question. It's either a ghost or he just sees some light on the wall for some reason.
Do cats have really good hearing?
I think so.
Yeah, he's got pretty good hearing.
So you might hear something scuttling in the walls. Too.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, that's
not to imply
that's comforting.
Not to imply there's people crawling up inside your walls and watching you shower. It's happened.
I'd be more scared of like a mouse or a rat.
Yeah,
they freak me out. Well, that's not a real thing that would ever happen. So I'm not really scared about that.
It's happened.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's happened in history.
You know, come on. It's not going to happen to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Famous
last words. There.
I challenge anyone to come live in my walls and spook me.
Oh, my gosh. Listeners, do not.
No, so I grew up in like the country. And we would have mice sometimes come into our house. And
country mice or city mice?
Well, they were country mice. Emma.
You could tell they had like a little bindle.
Yeah,
instead of like a bowler
hat. And I always used to be very scared of trying to go to sleep when I knew I could hear the mouse like running around.
I was bitten awake by a mouse.
Oh my god!
In my first house in Austin, I've had mice in every place that I've lived except for the current one. So really, I don't mean to brag, but I'm moving on up.
That is the worst thing I've ever heard. So we've talked before.
Did you have to go to the doctors?
Well, here's the thing.
Should you have gone to the doctors?
Here's the thing. Maybe it didn't exactly break the skin. First of all, I was fully naked. As we've discussed.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That lends itself to more terror.
So it hurt in so much that it like snapped you awake. But then I could just hear it moving around the room. And we lived in this weird kind of like split level duplexy type thing where like the bathroom was just off the bedroom. And so then I just sort of like threw myself into the bathroom because he was just working the room. Like you could hear him moving
like
around.
Like a little Roomba.
Yeah. And I looked down and it was like red, but not bloody. And then I just sat on the toilet with my phone for like 45 minutes reading about rat bite fever, which is a thing. And then I was just like, I'll put some of that stuff in the brown bottle on it and you're fine.
Hydrogen peroxide.
There you go.
Stuff in the brown bottle.
It always comes in like,
I knew.
yeah, she knows.
Oh, yeah, I know.
She got me by.
Or I guess rubbing alcohol also comes in a brown bottle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know what else does an ice cold Coors Light?
So the mouse fear is legit. What are you afraid of this week, Emma?
Okay. Well, I mean, yes, everything going on in the world, like politically, is terrifying.
Yeah.
But like, actually, like, gonna get me scares. It's really. I always talk about my hallway, but it's getting worse. That like so.
Upstairs?
Do you mean
or
it's
down?
elongating?
No, my fear of it.
Okay.
So, when I go up the stairs, there's like a little,
Like landing?
yeah, like a landing that you can't see. Like someone could be hiding really easily.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know why I have to picture this every time I go up the stairs, but I'm like, oh, someone's going to get me. Someone's going to get me. So that's been a thing I've been trying not to focus on.
You need to get like a bike helmet with like little mirrors.
That's
You know
a good
the like
idea.
people
You
on
need
bikes wear it.
you need a kid inventor in
Yeah.
your life.
I need,
You need that kid from the
they
Babadook
had
to
the
hook something up for you.
spy telescope that you
Yeah.
could like put around the corner.
Yeah,
Emma, no, that's a trick. When you take it away from your eye, it'll have a black ring around it, and you'll look silly.
Oh man. So yeah, my hallway.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I'm sure we'll revisit that next week. I just read this passage. I'm reading it, horror novel, because I'm trying to like,
Why?
I'm just trying to like live the podcast.
Jumping
I
in,
guess. Yeah,
just
yeah.
jumping in that lifestyle.
It's called Kill Creek. It's not very good. It was. It's one of those things that's on the shelf where people are like, some guy who works at this store who you don't know recommends it. So you're like, oh, that seems like it's pretty good. And there's like a Joyce Carol Oates quote, like pull quote on the
I like
cover.
her.
Yeah. So, but it's like gothic horror. I don't know. Anyway, this woman there's a scene in it that was like stomach churning. So I can't kind of stomach that super kind of grimy ultra gore. So she's being like possessed or like. She's basically being haunted. Like all these people go to a haunted house and then leave, and then they're being haunted in their respective lives. And so these two ghosts of like old twin sisters are like punching through her kitchen and like coming through the walls and stuff like that. And she's got like a knife poised on her wrist, like ready to jump off if they make it all the way through. And so then one does and kind of tumbles into her room. And then the way that they describe her suicide is like such graphic language, like it was like super stomach churning, and I'm gonna do it for you now. So they basically say that she put so much of her weight into leaning into the knife that it went through the other end, and then she just like slashed up and then slashed down, and then she's just bleeding out, and her like vision is fading, and she's like, "Yeah, bitch, I got you, like I got there first," to the ghost, and then the ghost, like who has no eyes, just sort of like smiles like knowingly, like, "You're not free yet, motherfucker." And so I was reading this on a plane.
Yourself.
Yeah, and I was like, "Ah!" So that's scaring me this week. Just that
That's
scared of being
terrifying.
owned by a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't escape them even if you try to like beat them to the punch.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's upsetting.
After that part of the book, did the character go, oh, fuck. Oh, damn it. Oh.
She's just spraying blood everywhere. Like, fooled again. So let's talk about the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, you brought 3 movies. We talked about them beforehand. We did a little bit different this time, and then we watched it. But tell the good people what you brought for us.
So I already mentioned Green Room.
Yes.
It is a movie starring Anton Yelchin. It was one of his last movies.
R.I.P., yeah.
And I forget what her name is from Arrested Development.
Alia Shawkat.
Alia Shawkat. They are 2 of 4 or 5 people in this punk band that is driving around doing a shoestring budgets tour of the Pacific Northwest, it looks like.
Yeah.
Like this movie opens with them having run out of gas and they have to bike to a parking lot somewhere a couple miles away to siphon off some gas. Like that's how little money they have. And so they end up in this one town. The booker kind of screws them over, and to make up for it, he says, "Hey, there's this day show I can get you on." And they drive to the day show, and it turns out to be like this skinhead punk bar. And so they play the show, and they end up getting caught up in we'll call it a very tense situation. And it takes off from there. Patrick Stewart plays the head Nazi, the head skinhead Nazi.
Yeah. This is supposed to be a great movie.
It fucking rules.
I actually didn't know there was
intense.
Nazi stuff.
It's
That does
badass.
make me more interested in seeing it.
I think we have to at some point in time see it or work up the courage to watch it because it's supposed to be so good.
I'm not.
I might read the.
I'm not doing a great job of building the tension because the movie is such a thematic masterpiece. I feel like,
and it's like a total white knuckle tension.
Almost from the very beginning when you don't know when you
just imagine.
it just feel like you don't know anything bad happens for at least 30 or 40 minutes, but the whole time you just feel not well about what's going to happen.
Well, it's that sort of this vibes. They're all crusty, punks,
crust punk.
Yeah, and then
they will. That they will go places that your better judgment would keep you out of.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's something we talk about a lot on this podcast because we would not do any of these things.
Emma and I would never be caught dead
but
in a
we're
punk
also
band.
never not going to get
I
murdered.
will never learn the
No.
guitar.
I just want to be the person who goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I get off stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. He's here. The guy that yells 1, 2, 3, 4 before every punk song.
But you're right. We do have to see it at some point in time. I think you're not the first person.
No, we've definitely
Lance?
talked about it
Someone has
before.
suggested it
Somebody else
before. I can't
Yeah.
remember who.
I think
Or Danielle?
Danielle.
I think it was
Yeah.
Danielle. Yeah.
And then maybe someone else too.
Okay. Did you guys see it together?
I think we did, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. I love it. So second, what was next?
Second was The Shining.
It's a
Yes.
One
classic.
of the-
This is tough.
It's
This
a
is
classic.
One
yeah.
of the most perfect movies
Yeah.
that has ever been made. It is a carefully crafted Stanley Kubrick masterpiece. He abused several cast members to get this movie made.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe it puts something of a taint on the movie, but
sure.
also, well, when we watch that movie, we can have that
I
conversation.
would
but
be interested in seeing it again just because I haven't seen it since high school. And it was the first real scary movie I ever watched.
yes, I think
and it fucked me up forever.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But-
He lays the dramatic music and camera angles
sort of slow tracking
very
and stuff like
heavily from the beginning. From the beginning,
Yeah, that's one of those things. It's there's despair and claustrophobia from the beginning. It
Yeah.
doesn't even need it does build, but it's there.
Yeah,
We're talking about
Sorry, go ahead.
the
remake.
the remake with the guy from Wings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, Steven Weber.
Whatever.
Which I've seen, and I mean, has everybody seen that too?
Yeah, it's
I
bad.
have not.
I haven't seen no. I haven't.
Why
seen
would
it.
you remake The Shining?
It's a miniseries. They
Yeah.
remade
Oh.
it because there's
Stephen
a lot
King
of shit.
likes the miniseries more.
Yeah,
That's what I
because
always
it
hear.
adapts his book directly.
yeah.
There's the living animal hedge sculptures that are in it, just all this wacky
Yeah.
shit.
That was a
It's
real
like
90s
saying
thing.
my favorite Harry Potter movie is the first one because it's the longest that gets most of the inane details.
I do because Chris Columbus is my uncle.
Wait, really?
No, that'd be wild if I was.
If you
sitting on
just
that
told us that
downtown.
now,
Yeah.
if you got that Home Alone money,
Yeah, I got all the original traps from Home Alone in my basement. We'll watch it at some point in time. Spoiler alert.
Bit of a time crunch.
We might have watched it this time, but it is, and there's a bit of a dispute based on what the internet had to say, but it's either 2 hours and 20 or 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
it's a long movie.
It's a long movie,
Yeah,
but
it
it
is.
doesn't. I don't imagine anybody has the impression when they come away from that where they're like, "Oh, geez, that was really trim the fat, please."
Yeah,
It's great.
no,
I
it's
definitely
all-
wanted it to be shorter when I was seeing it.
Well, yeah, leave space for all that tension, baby.
Yeah. And so third, what we actually watched.
The movie we actually watched is called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. It is a mockumentary about
of sorts.
what is it literally about? I guess it's about this woman who is a journalism grad student follows this man named Leslie Vernon as he prepares to launch himself upon the world as the next new legendary slasher killer, a la Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. And I guess in this universe, those weren't movies.
Yeah, they're all
they
real,
literally happened.
They're real
breathing men.
things.
And so he is priming himself up to be the next legendary slasher killer. And he invites this camera crew to come along with him. Then he shows, picks out a survivor girl, which is who has to be a virgin. That's a trope that gets repeated in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. All these meta horror movies. Just sort of trot out the like film studies 101.
Yeah.
Well, it's very Scream in that way.
Yeah, but it definitely wasn't operating. It wasn't operating on the same wavelength that Scream was at all.
No, it's kind of like fun and poppy and clean. Well, so when did you see this for the first time? This is 2006.
I saw it shortly. I guess probably after it first became available, wide release, because it came out in 2006 and it went around like the festival circuit. Like I think it debuted at South by Southwest. It was very low budget, very. It didn't get released very widely. I think it grossed like 5 figures total.
Well, you can't win them all.
Not great.
Well, so this is interesting too, like in the kind of oeuvre of stuff that we've already watched, because it's the first time that I mean, it sort of blurs the line at the end and kind of tonally switches, but it's a comedy.
Yeah,
I guess Creep was a comedy too.
Yeah.
Dark satire.
Yeah.
Well, Get Out's, you could argue a comedy.
Yeah.
It was, and I don't know if it was because it was 10 years ago in terms of the culture and what we absorbed, or if it because it was 10 years ago and I was 20 and not 31. But it was a lot funnier when I first saw it than it was this time.
Totally. I mean, there we'll get into this, but there were moments where like it was clearly trying to like lean into some kind of like dark commentary or like darker humor, and this crowd was not giving it anything. They're just like sitting politely, like waiting for the scene change. Like, okay, we get what you're trying to do. Fuck off.
We were
Next
extremely
idea.
judgmental.
There were funny parts.
There
were some funny stuff in it.
I remember, for some reason, I remember the turn that happens with like about 20 minutes left in the movie. I remember that being a lot more distinct than it was this time for some reason. And after the turn, when they were still doing that, hey, what if everybody here is just saying funny lines? It definitely doesn't work, and it looks real weird.
They're duds. Have you seen it since you saw it originally?
No, this is only the second time I've seen it.
Okay, awesome. So we've been doing this thing that I think you got us some of the way there. So Emma, if I can sort of pimp you into giving us 60-second, like just give us
synopsis?
a full spoiler-filled synopsis of this movie, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Taylor is a grad student, apparently in journalism school. So she's gotten some friends to make a documentary. I don't know if they're students or not. Doesn't say. And they somehow meet this serial killer, or slasher. It's not clear if he's done it before, but he's like planning a slasher attempt. So they're filming him getting ready for killing people and like basically stalking all these teenagers, and like setting up creepy shit. And then it becomes, and he's also friends with an old retired serial killer, and they have dinner with them. And it's like,
that's 30 seconds.
Okay, and then they go to the house to do the big slashing, and they're still filming everything. And Taylor has to finally be like, oh, I guess I finally have a conscience. And I like shouldn't do this, maybe. We have to stop filming now that people are literally dead in the next room. So then
10 seconds.
They stop filming, and it becomes clear that they were part of the plan the whole time, and she's actually the final girl, and she has to kill him, and she squishes his head in a cider vice and then burns him, and he pops out after the credits, and he's still alive.
Yep, that was great.
Very
good. Perfect. So here's the thing. Let's just jump in.
Okay,
so I think that
Taylor's a cunt.
I mean, we're all on the same page. We fucking hate Taylor.
Yeah.
She sucks.
Taylor sucks.
She's she's
Acting was
morally
fine.
complicated. Yeah, it's all right.
I think she's probably the best one in the movie.
I think the guy who was the killer was great.
He was great too.
Yeah.
He was doing a very hard Sam Rockwell thing.
Yeah. Perfect.
But that was the time for it.
That was,
Yeah.
2006.
Well, so the problem that I have with this is like a semantic one, where it's like I don't think of Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy as serial killers. I think of them as like slasher.
it was-
So I was like,
and
oh,
also,
wait, are
like,
you an Ed Gein or are you Freddy? Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he's obviously more in the Freddy style, but
He's
like,
closer, probably Jason or Michael.
okay, yeah.
It's always weird when people group those three together because one of them is like a non-dimensional being.
Well, that's
Freddy's not really a slasher. Like, I mean, it's grouped in with the slashers, but
this is he's like supposed to be. They actually call him a supernatural like serial killer at some point in time, and I'm like, what? But
they used about as many different words to describe that position in our culture as they could.
Yeah.
So this movie is like all of these like tonal like experiments and all of these ideas like heaped into like kind of like a big, sometimes messy, like
it's a lot.
Goulash.
Sometimes
like
not messy.
Sometimes not.
Mostly messy, I would say.
I felt like I was tracking it pretty well for the first half. Like I got what it was doing, and when it was confusing, clearly they were going to try to explain to you like what they were trying to do pretty directly. I even kind of like the weird shift between like documentary Verite footage and like kind of cinematic stuff. Like that was kind of cool. I thought it's not cool at the end, but
something about when they cut to the cinematic version, it seemed very like unsolved mysteries reenactments, like that kind of camera work.
Well, that's the same low budget.
But now you have to like actually make it look good, which is like the whole reason these people decide to make like mockumentary style movies for their first pictures
because you can be cheap about it. And you're like, well, this is what it's supposed to look like.
I mean, like mockumentaries are getting a little thin, or like wearing on my patience, I think, a little bit in this context because it's just like it's all the sort of stuff that the complaints that you had throughout, Emma, which is like, why would she do this? Like, what is her ethical compass for all of this? Like, what is this project? How the fuck did they meet him?
And
but
normally,
to be fair, those are questions that it took people like 5 seasons of The Office to really start asking. But this was 2006.
Normally, like in the case of The Office, like those people are just like not present. You know what I mean? Like you can think about that stuff later when you realize, like, wait a second. Like, there's a camera. But in this one, there's always someone in front of the camera interviewing him. Like, from Jump Street, they are like, this is... We're going to let you know there's a documentary crew here. Yeah. So it really, like,
we know
attention.
right away their names are Todd and Doug, and they're both very horny.
They are extremely horny.
So for the dudes in the room, do you think this is a fair depiction of masculinity? I thought it was real reductive of like the sort of male roles. No, it wasn't actually.
Are you a Todd or a Doug?
So Todd and Doug are like the weird camera guys, basically, and they are essentially just like horn dogs.
Yeah,
they're like classic 80s,
classic
like
horn dogs.
kind of horny.
Talking
80s
about
movie.
how hot these high schoolers are.
That's guy shit.
It's just guy stuff. You wouldn't understand.
17's age of consent in some states, and we didn't say what state this movie's in. So.
I love that this is the second time today that this group of friends has talked about the age of consent in various states.
To be fair, Adam wasn't there for the first time.
True,
he didn't know.
True. But if anybody needs like legal scholars about consent rules, it's this crew. So it was a comedy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Dark comedy, scary comedy.
Yeah. Do we think it's effective as a comedy? We're all snobs, so just
depends
like
it depends what you mean by effective, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed it when I watched it when it came out, and it's like, comedy is so temporal. It's hard. It's really hard to expect a even 10-year-old comedy to hold up like that well.
Truth.
And we've also had, since this movie came out, like we've had Cabin in the Woods, which I think is like now the go-to like meta commentary horror movie. But before that, there wasn't really much of anything. I mean, there was Scream. But this was the first one to like literalize it in this way, which was a little heavy-handed.
It's heavy-handed, but I think like we're not talking about like brass tacks ratings yet or anything like that. But like I think it's like fairly effective in whatever it sets out to do, which is like, what if all that shit wasn't like fantastical? It was real. Right. Like, how do we sort of like retcon it to make it? Like, what would this person be like? What would the psyche of this person and the methodology be if they were doing it for real?
Yeah, I think the premise is really cool, and it's something that bugs me about all those movies. That like they're just like hollow characters that are evil. Yeah, and we actually he wasn't the most well developed character on the planet, but like it was an interesting character, and we got to see this whole like idea of like why people become this.
Well, so we're sticklers for motivation a lot of the time, Emma and I, and this movie like intentionally tries to skirt that. Like he doesn't ever really want to delve into the why. He
does explain that bullshit excuse of like, oh, we need evil to have good in this world.
But is that the truth in this context?
I think that's what he's. That's his positing.
That's his entire motivation.
That's what he's saying, but no,
I don't know if it's his
like
entire motivation.
I thought that his motivation was that he thought he was like born to do it.
Yeah.
It was his destiny.
Yeah.
Which makes his motivation the same as like Jeff Bezos. Like it's just somebody who's like, I don't care what the consequences are of this. I need to make the most efficient system possible.
I'm supposed to.
That's just what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you can't stop me from trying my hardest to do that.
Is that what psychopathy is like? Like, do you just
probably
sort of like fixate on things and you're like, I just get to
is
do it?
that how you say that?
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Like a psychopath?
You don't say psychopathy.
Yeah, you wouldn't say psychopathy.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, all right. I'm keeping that part in. But like, is that what's? I mean, so that's what it is.
I think so.
He's just your garden variety psychopath, and he like is fixated on this kind of methodology of killing.
But I think for me that's fine.
Okay.
Like I still believe it because it's like we may not be getting the true reason and the true psychological diagnosis of him, but like we got his own motivation, and that's fine.
And it makes sense in the context of the world if he's the younger, newer version of like Jason or Michael Myers. If he grew up in a world where those were real, he would theoretically, as a person with some sort of mental illness, admire those people and what they did. So you model himself after them. So that I kind of buy that the elaborate nature of his scheme is like
he found
justified.
one of them and like sought mentorship. It looks like
Yeah.
I love this idea of this sort of like network, loosely affiliated network of like successful, current, and
of
retired bad guys. That's kind of a funny idea. It's weird in its execution because
I
there's
like the idea that they have one of those. It was 06, so they have one of those first Facebook group pages where it's just a complete sentence with a period is the title. Old timey serial killers who would like to help new serial killers get started and stuff. Period.
But they had to have a college email address to be part of the system.
So we learn a lot about like what you got to do practically to like train up, and then like even when you're in retirement, what you got to do to like keep your weird skills sharp. Of all that shit that's on display, what is the deal breaker for each of you individually? What do you say? Like, I'd love to get into this murder biz, but
I just can't.
I'm not cut out
lift
for
weights.
punching bags.
All that cardio.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to say the thing where he buries himself in a...
Explain to the good people listening.
So,
what the fuck was going on?
This was probably the biggest stretch of the premise, but the idea is that you may have to appear dead at some point, or you may have to sit still in some place while you wait for a very long time. So what these guys apparently do is they get in sensory deprivation chambers and then bury them in the ground. And
they all go to Joe Rogan's house and they get into a sense depth tank.
You ever do DMT, bro?
Yeah, it does seem like
You guys ever do a volcano bong rip and then jump in a sense depth tank? Fucking blow your mind.
Sense depth. I'm out on that. I'm out on that.
Just because of garden variety claustrophobia?
Yes.
Or like,
you're burying yourself alive.
Why do you bury yourself? It's already a sensory deprivation tank.
I think that was just for dramatic effect. Because these motherfuckers are dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these are kids that did not get the part they wanted in the high school play.
Yeah.
Leslie Vernon is a messy bitch and he loves drama.
Yeah, he has a symbol for everything.
Yeah.
Like he is obsessed with doing what must be days of extra work to get like to make somebody go, oh, okay. Like that's it. That's all the reaction you can get out of it.
Like laying all those traps for the girl, like the girl that was going to be the final girl, supposedly.
Yeah.
The red herring, is, if you would.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's a red herring?
Are you asking that
No,
for real?
At some point in the movie, the journalism grad student asks what a red herring is.
Which I was thinking she was a film grad student. But still, I feel like
it's not clear.
He called her a journalist at one point.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
which she's clearly not taking seriously
Wait.
because you don't involve yourself.
Well, that
in the
cameraman's
case.
definitely a film major.
Yeah.
He has made several zombie
Because of
movies.
those sick Dutch angles, and also because he's all
There's so
he's
many
horny.
Dutch angles in
Yeah.
this. I can't tell if it is like a function of the movie or if it's some like very smart satire about the guy being the cameraman.
That's the brilliance of it, though, right? Because if people are like, "Hey, funny satire," you're like, "Yeah, sure. That wasn't just my
definitely.
legitimate bare heart filmmaking." Or whatever. So there's like, I think the thing that's confusing to me about this too is like it does seem like he's done it before because he
does.
talks
He talks about it.
previous. He's like, when I do this, it's because this will happen.
Yeah.
So like, how does that fit into always need to have these things explained to me because I feel dumb whenever I watch them. It's like, how does it fit into the like mythos that he's trying to create of this like drowned boy and this sort of like resurgent monster? Does that mean he's playing the role of like a bunch of different
That's my thought.
supernatural killers everywhere?
My
Yeah.
thought is he picks a local legend from
Okay.
each place and like becomes that character.
Okay.
Because you eventually find out in the middle of the movie that he actually is not from this small town that he's in, and his name is not Leslie Vernon.
He forged every old story, it looks like.
Yeah.
His name's Leslie Mancuso because he's descended from a 1970s New York police detective.
I like that his first name is still Leslie.
Yeah,
that
he
was
does have a
yeah.
strict requirement that it's got to be kids named Leslie.
With like mythical.
Also, the origin story is that like a kid who was like born into a loveless family who was essentially enslaved and abused his entire life finally rises up against his captors, and then the town kills that kid.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Nobody else has any moral qualms
by
with that?
pushing him over a waterfall.
Yeah.
Not by pushing him over, by marching him over a waterfall, they say.
And then, of course, his body, it's cold water, and as we
So
all
give him
know...
a nice parade first.
It's like just a really dark sequel to The Music Man. Where they finally get their instruments and then kill this poor little kid. So I mean, this could be a franchise then, because like we could see him, he rises from the dead, and he doesn't go after Taylor, he just moves to a new town and starts all over again.
I think that's probably
That's kinda tight.
That was
the
the hope.
idea when they made it, maybe, that they were kind of hoping like, oh, maybe it'll catch on and be...
Does this kind of shit, this like super low budget shit, ever catch on and like become multiple...
Paranormal
And it was-
Activity.
Blair Witch.
All right, you guys are just...
But Blair
fucking
Witch-
you guys, I love this. Everybody comes correct.
There's got to be others. I mean, Saw was not, but it's not the same thing.
The first Chainsaw Massacre was real cheap.
Yeah,
cheap,
Chainsaw
super
Massacre
cheap.
was...
I haven't
Those
seen
movies,
it.
all
I
those
just
movies
know that.
looked
First
good,
Evil
though.
Dead pretty cheap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All these movies looked great, though.
Yeah,
That's- okay,
all
yeah.
those looked way
This
fucking better than
definitely
this.
lacks a professionalism
Yeah.
that you might find in some of those other low budget.
Guys, it looks like shit.
It does.
It looks extremely bad.
But I enjoyed it. Like
You are. We're gonna vote later, but you are full of surprises.
You are
I
just
am.
a wild card.
Okay, here's the thing. I enjoyed parts of it,
Okay, yeah.
and then other parts made me real mad. And
What made
scared.
you mad? Ooh, let's get into what made you mad.
Audience, go back and rewind that. You can hear the moment that Emma realizes that she's not hot take enough for this, so she rolls it back. Like,
Well, I got very mad at Taylor and her crew because it's like there was no justification as to why. At one point, she was like, "Well, I started this. I got to finish it." And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Why would you ever like? There needed to be some justification.
call the police.
Was
You
him
know-
killing? Oh, sorry.
It's interesting that we didn't watch the movie about Nazis because this actually is kind of what's the word? Allegorical? No,
Yeah.
what the journalists in this movie do and what they
Oh.
attempt to use their journalistic abilities to portray is
Right.
basically every journalist who's like, you know what these Nazis need is somebody to shine a light on it.
Well, it's like every war photographer
Yeah.
is like, do I have a responsibility to the person who's like getting napalmed or to the larger world, like knowledge,
Yeah.
Like, and sort
Yeah.
of tell this
Right.
story, and that's a bit of a.
I
I
think
think ethically,
yeah.
that's a bit of a wank.
I
Yeah.
get it in like war situations, like
Yeah.
taking pictures, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is like he's planning to kill someone. Like
Yeah,
that's one
yeah,
of the few
yeah.
things like you have to respect confidentiality as a journalist to your source. but I'm sure it's like every other confidentiality. If they plan on hurting someone, you are ethically bound to.
Right, and she's also not actually a journalist.
No,
she's in grad
she's
school.
in grad school.
And she
hasn't
it.
taken the oath.
We don't even have to give her like the benefit of the doubt. Wait, does the old lady from the Poltergeist die?
Yeah, immediately.
So like, why was that not the point?
Yeah,
like,
that's what's crazy is that a generous reading of the movie is that like, okay, it wasn't real.
When the bodies start to...
They thought that he was like, kind of a crazy person
yeah.
who was not actually going to go through with it.
They were just interviewing the crazy
right.
person, yeah.
But pretty early on, he kills the librarian, and they're just like, oh man, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really track at all.
Do you think 40s actress who's married to really old retired killer is like a final girl that he caught? Like he's like,
that was my thought.
That
was his final girl.
Yeah.
She was like, "You couldn't outrun me" or something. Like she like made jokes about it.
Yeah. So
there's like a little predatory message there, like, "Hey, look for that final girl because at the end of the day,
able to
make an honest woman
at the
out
end
of
of the
her.
day, she's actually
Truly
going to think
the final
you're
girl.
awesome."
Yeah. Well, that's
final
wow, you
girl
killed
for
so many
you.
of my friends,
Yeah.
but not me. Ooh.
Yeah.
Those friends do suck though. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a Stockholm thing. You're just like, all right, he does have a pretty nice, like, modernist house in the woods in Oregon. So you're like, I don't know, maybe I could live this life.
Every 3 days, he just goes away in the ground for a while and
I
gets
know.
some peace and quiet.
What a dream. Yeah, it's like he's not killing actively
get-
anymore, so you're not morally compromised there. You get some time to yourself without him. He's got a man cave that's literally underground or something.
So what if he's a killer and he looks and talks exactly like the kid in your theater department who watches the Boondock Saints too many times? Nobody else, the goatee and just like his vibe, it just seems like
Real Boondock Saints-y.
real Boondock Saints vibe from him. I did
never
not
saw
like
that.
him. I did not
Wait,
like
talking
Leslie
young
Vernon
killer?
as like
He's talking about a young guy.
Yeah, I did not like him as like I just not find him charming or appealing in any
Oh,
way.
he wasn't, but he was interesting.
And sometimes his line reads were funny. That's enough.
Yeah, I thought the
that's
actor
enough for
was
me.
fine.
I didn't like his performance
Oh.
because it
Oh.
just felt so try hard.
It seemed like he knew what a bunch of cool guys on movies he'd seen.
Yeah.
talk like.
Exactly.
But I think it's time for Hot or Not. And we'll really put this to
Yeah,
the
man.
test.
Let's get it out there.
This is a new segment, hotornot.com. Sponsored by hotornot.com, RIP. I don't know if it's RIP.
it's kind
definitely
it's kind
still
of
there.
like the Facebook.
Oh, is this right before the Mr. Skin segment?
So
We do have to get to that because it's like okay.
let's just the lead guy, hotornot.com.
not.
Everybody in this movie is a big old knot.
Wow.
Everybody in this movie is a big knot because it's this problem of this low budget like LA shit where like everybody's like C and D list like nobody's interesting looking or even like
Wow.
they're just like boring and
Let's
flat.
slow down. Because
Y'all
Segment
mean.
over.
I kind of felt a little bit.
You
of
want to
some
fuck Taylor? don't you?
Taylor was
You
cute.
mother! I knew he was going to say he wants to fuck.
Steven has learned my preferences.
We're like,
over the
she
course of-
sucks. She like, she's an enabler. Everything about her is bad. And Kyle's like,
She cute though. She cute though.
And she finally came around to wanting to help people.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, when her life became in danger.
Yeah, exactly. When it directly affected
Excuse me.
her.
I thought this was hot or not ethical
I'm sorry.
or not.
Is attraction not based on personality? Are you not pansexual? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Or what's the one?
pansexual is
Sapiosexual?
regardless of gender.
Sapiosexual. I'm
just all humans?
sapiosexual.
Is that
no,
all
it
humans?
means you're so attracted to smart people. You're above looks.
Oh,
It's a real. Well, I shouldn't.
we were about to drag the fuck out of that, and then we're like,
I
oh god, this is going out
was.
onto the internet.
Yeah, but like
The
honestly,
land of repercussions.
it seems maybe it's a real thing. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
My perception of people who put it on their dating apps
Yeah.
that they're a sapiosexual is that they're pieces of shit.
You want like you got a big poster in your living room that's like rainbow background and it says God hates sapiosexuals.
Our new hot or not segment has quickly transitioned to our classic segment in Emma's Empathy Corner.
Hey,
Wait, so you
I
think
said I don't know
Taylor's
enough
hot?
about
Yeah, Taylor's hot.
You want to fuck the serial killer?
I think he's attractive-ish.
With the goatee,
No,
though?
the goatee would have to go, and like, The mustache
total
man
thing.
is
Oh,
okay.
excuse me. Hold on. Did I say goatee? I meant flavor saver.
Because
He's got a flavor saver.
Oh,
the soul.
Because of oral sex.
Gross.
Because of oral sex.
The mustache, the mustache
the
film
collective
man
soul.
was okay.
I liked. I think I'm gonna give a hot to the one that got away. That weird interaction that he had with that woman in high school, just in the distance. And I thought that was gonna be a
Zoe
thing.
Deschanel.
Yeah, there was a there was a real
Or
adorable.
like the Zoe Deschanel extra.
yeah. What is this thing called?
She had
Ukulele. It's a
bangs.
ukulele.
She didn't have a
When
ukulele.
you're getting chased by a serial killer.
Look for that hot track on our Facebook. Adam, do you want to plug your SoundCloud? Hot or not? Who's a definite not or a definite hot for you?
I'm gonna
This
say
is a cool dynamic.
I'm gonna say
I like this dynamic too.
No, I'm gonna say
Nicole
I'm gonna
is
say
staring
no
at Adam.
to everybody in that movie. Nobody had a lick of charisma or a,
Taylor had the same haircut as me.
So you have to say Taylor.
Just like her hair.
Okay, I like her hair, but her judgment is so bad it turns me off. You would have done so many different things.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
I love this. That concludes our new segment. Kyle's always wrong. Just trying to make him feel bad about his choices. Can we talk about the shift then, the sort of climax of this
When she realizes she's
film.
the final girl.
Well, so like they do that stylistic shift again where it's like, well,
Because they do it 2 or 3 times throughout the
Yes,
movie
yeah.
where
Yeah.
it switches from documentary style footage
To narrative
like
film, yeah.
a sort of cheesy, low budgets, like actually dramatic shots.
Yeah.
And they do it twice with Kelly. Once in the very beginning of the movie when she's like working late night at the diner, and then once in the library
Yeah.
where they killed the old lady. And then they do it a third time. And it's when they put the documentary cameras in the van away.
And Taylor says the documentary is over.
And that like denotes them officially being pushed into the actual horror movie part of it.
aside from Kelly being a terrible actress, like I think the first 2 times, the first time you don't know what's happening, I think it's kind of cool in the library.
Yeah.
I like it worked for
It
me in
was
the
fine.
library.
Yeah.
At the end, it's just like they step through every beat of the climax. And then they like play it out. And granted, some of it changes, but it's like, we've seen this already.
Yeah.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, which is like the opposite of what it should be, right?
And the other thing is like there are so many individual steps to it that when they start going through it and like he changes the plan, you can't really tell where they're at because you're like, okay, was that the first or the second time that they went upstairs?
You know she's not gonna die.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And all the actors and actresses are kind of interchangeable, like sort of on purpose, because that's kind of what their chattel, right?
Yeah.
To just get killed. But you care like, wait, are they the couple that are supposed to go upstairs and have sex? Or like, what's happening here exactly? I'm not invested in it, so I just sort of like lose interest.
Did we? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did we ever find the body? He moved those bodies at one point. Did we
They
ever
were in the
find
van.
They're in the van.
Oh, I missed that.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does kind of solve the problem. Not solve the problem because it
How
creates
do
all
you
these other
solve a
problems,
problem like
a mockumentary because it fixes the thing where it's like, why would you still be filming while this is happening? Put the cameras away.
Yeah.
So that I think
No, you're right.
that might be the intention is
Totally.
them to go in addition to the like, oh, now you're in the horror.
Right.
Just a way to be like, okay, we're done filming this because
Yeah.
it would be insane for Todd to walk around shooting upskirts with his camera during all
Oh,
this.
you know he has a collection of them too.
My man's got mirror shoes for sure.
Wait. Oh.
Mirrors on the, instead
I
of
stepped through it in real time. I was like, huh? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, shiny shoes, me too.
Yeah, as I like tuck my feet underneath the chair, like they're throwing all kinds of disco.
is that what
we
that
can't
Paul
film
Simon
it.
song is about?
Yeah.
Diamonds on
A
the
real
soles of your
pervert.
shoe.
Yeah. There's always just some guy who's doing one of these, like sort of like a little.
Just kicking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then we just have to kind of, like, it also sort of undermines the traditional pacing of a horror movie because then you just get like a horror movie in like 20 minutes. And it's a little bit like, it doesn't have any sort of like tension or like it doesn't have that sort of escalation because it's just like but everybody's just doing dumb things and getting killed for it. And so to me, like the stuff that it's referencing is obviously more scary, I think, than this shit.
I mean, I straight up screamed at one point.
You did. What was this?
I don't remember.
It was a jump scare.
It was
there was a jump scare,
just a classic cheap jump scare of like it's not the killer, and he like taps somebody on the shoulder.
Yeah.
There's a musical sting.
What about the sort of cheesecake objectification, like upskirt shots and just bare breasts? Like that's like trying
that was
to
weird.
be. It's like trying to have a commentary, but it's like
the bare breasts were. But was the underwear shot? It felt really like
I think so, right? We're just supposed to think like, oh, this
But
is like
that's another
the
thing
style
is
of the
like
genre.
sometimes it would be like, hey, are we parodying the schlock or is this just the
We're
schlock?
just doing
Yeah.
the thing.
Well, and they're sexual right before they die. Like it's like you see tits, and then that girl is supposed to get killed, and then you see up their skirt, and that's
And then
the
she-
moment
as she gets killed,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all about
Yeah.
virginity and
Yeah.
sexual whatever.
What? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Nicole
all
Russell, everyone. Special guest.
Well, to me too, like. So it's trying to say something with that in
But it
this
doesn't.
context,
It's not
but
effective.
it fails at
Yeah,
it.
it fails
and then
completely.
mostly we're all just like, that was one of those moments where we're like, okay, all right.
And it
then-
doesn't. Sorry, go ahead.
now I'm just uncomfortably looking at breasts with my friends.
right. Classic
With
Sunday
real
shit.
weird nipples. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
those
the
were
nipples were very
long
weird
nipples, long nipples. But then it does get at something that we've talked about a little bit before, which is like the weird simultaneous liberalism and super conservatism of horror, where it's like she's like trying to be like, oh, are you pro-life and you're also a misogynist, but that is kind of toothless too. It doesn't really ever land. But she's
Yeah. Oh, you're surprised that the murderer is a chauvinist?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
when you're like, I'm out of the van because this guy I might not be wanting to donate to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
This child murderer I'm hanging out with. That's another thing is like you were talking about how they like talk about, but they don't quite land one side or the other on like the pornier aspects of it. They also do that with like the moral journalists thing that they try to do. They try to make they try at one point like Leslie like starts screaming at the journalist and he like puts his hand on Taylor's throat and like
everybody's just
everyone they make it seem like the journalists are like asking, should we still be in this involved in this? And like that comes back at the end when they're like, what are we supposed to do here? These are just our jobs. Like, what do we do? But like that moment passed a long time ago when y'all like recorded a woman getting murdered in the library and didn't like just like dunk the tapes in bleach or call the cops or either of the smart things to have done. And
that's why I had like convinced myself that the old lady didn't die because it seems weird.
It's
for
a
it
weird,
to have that.
and you don't really see her go in
Yeah,
any way.
I wasn't
So-
clear.
Yeah, and she also
looked
said
away.
like exactly what he would have wanted her to say. Is the other thing. Like she told that story. Oh man, it's gonna all depend on what Kelly does, whether or not she finds the story out. And then this little old lady's like, well, here's the entire story.
just a convenient, like stand-in for the writers.
It's gonna totally depend on whether she asks the only other person in this library a question.
Robert Englund's in this movie for some reason.
yeah,
pretty
Yeah,
good
that's
for-
a get for them.
he'll kind of do.
He's like
anything.
this
Yeah, he'll
con-
kind of do whatever.
It's not like he's like doing anything else.
No, they're not.
He's
not
basically
being Freddy anymore.
doing bit parts in indie horror movies,
Yeah.
and he's like doing conventions.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of conventions.
Not a bad life.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Oh yeah, he
Okay,
made
but
it
it's
for
not
you
a bad
know-
life. But can you imagine just going to? You guys would hate it.
Oh
If
yeah,
your life was
yeah.
like-
If my life was sitting in a booth and having some sweaty idiot come
would
up and be like,
I
love the part in part 2 where you and like just go away, please.
But you would complain about it because we all complain about our lives.
Right.
But at the same time, like
better than a lot.
it's
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you would complain about individual things that happen to you, but like also I think if he hated it that much, he would have quit a long time
Oh
ago.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
No.
he would work in a Trader Joe's, and that always goes well for people who have like a public persona and then just go get a real job.
Man.
Anybody got anything else they want to say about this movie before we go to this ratings?
One thing I want to add real quick, I want to throw a recommendation out for anybody who likes this movie and is interested in kind of like meta horror. There's I'm going to get my Dylan Garcia on for a second and talk about a French film called Man Bites Dog. And it's made many years before this, like 10 or 15 at least. It's a it's a fake documentary about a crew following around a serial killer. So they follow him around the streets of whatever, I guess it's not Paris, but somewhere in France. And it's
Paris isn't the only place in France, Kyle.
Thank you, Emma. You've traveled the world.
But isn't it?
To me, it only is. No, it's a great movie. I think it executes this idea way, way better. It's trying to accomplish slightly different things because that's like a documentary about like a real life serial killer. You would follow somebody around like that, but it's very, very similar, and it's extremely graphic. It's tough to watch.
Sounds fun.
But it's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. It's on the Criterion Collection, so yeah,
It's gotta
I
be
think
good.
they know what they're talking about.
Right in between Armageddon and
And
how do you
the
get
laser
on-
disc of The Rock.
How do you get on the committee to pick Criterion Collection?
I'm sure you have to be a real piece of shit.
Like, you probably have to be a real asshole.
Yeah, you have to be a real prick.
Yeah. Adam, what about you? Anything else? Any thoughts about this movie before we jump into scoring?
I would say the one thing about it that like held up completely for me is that the one thing it effectively parodied is how flimsy like a lot of 80s slasher movies are plot wise.
Hell yeah.
That's the only thing it like nailed as far as its own critical analysis of the thing it was parodying. Like, he's going through all this work to set up this huge backstory, and he has to manipulate so many different aspects of the house to like make this kill work. And just like, what they're saying is that like if any of these happened in real life, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
The amount of legwork it would take to build this up is an unassumable task.
It's the insane amount of work, and then also, I mean, that's kind of why I like the dumb, but it kind of interesting to me at least, like network of people, because it's like, you know, just some cool guys breaking bread, sharing tips. They're like, be sure to saw halfway through every potential weapon in that shed filled with weapons.
Yeah. The one thing about that old guy I didn't care for is like it seemed like a trade network type thing is like what they're trying to set it up as. But then this is also a guy who like we think at that point that his parents are dead, and like there's this old man father figure, and it's just like, so did this old guy like raise him to be a slasher killer?
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Or like he called him to Reno. They met on the Facebook page or something like that. Like, I don't know. Any other parting thoughts, gang?
I love the idea.
Execution, maybe. Yeah. All right, let's talk about. Well, that's kind of jumping into a review.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off? Explain to
Sure.
Adam our Byzantine
So
system.
we're gonna do a classic that we invented. No one else has ever done it before. Thumbs up, thumbs down on whether or not you liked the movie. And then, isn't that wild that became like known for Roger and Ebert? Like that was a thing.
It became
versus
his
a
thing.
kind of like Caesar kind of
Yeah.
battle to the
Anyway,
death.
I just think
Anyway.
it's funny that became branded as something. So thumbs up, thumbs down, and then on a scale of 1 through 5, we're going to say how scary it was for us, and we're going to pick something from the movie that would soothe us. Like, for example, 5 turtleneck sweaters.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah. So I'll give it. I'm going to put a thumb in the middle.
Okay.
Because
Whoa.
I didn't.
Unprecedented.
Yeah, it's never happened before. I did genuinely enjoy parts of it, and then I did not enjoy parts of it.
Yeah.
But like, I really want it. Like, and it sounds shitty to say I loved the concept, but like, it's a fucking awesome concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, they delivered on some
Half
parts of it.
Yeah.
So like, I want to give them some credit. And then for scariness, I know you're going to make fun of me. The first half was not scary. The first half was funny. But then it got very scary for me. Like, that's what I'm scared of, like, crazy people coming and killing me. So, like, this was a movie that scared me. So I'm going to give it a 5. 5 turtleneck sweaters.
I love this.
This is madness.
It was very scary.
Oh my god!
And it is, but it is it's predicated on you just getting chased by a man trying to kill you.
As
straight
a
up.
woman,
Yeah, no, legitimate
being
fear.
chased by a man is a legit fear.
Yeah.
So don't judge.
Okay, well let's not pull that and pretend that it's not insane that you.
If you judge
You're
me,
like,
you're a
as a-
misogynist. And I'll tell
You're great,
everyone.
Emma. I love it. You came out with that's great. I'll go.
Why not?
We let guests go last so that you can choose how to like basically like I don't know.
You don't have to explain your order for me.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
We're sorry.
We're sorry you did our podcast.
Too accurate. I'm giving it a thumbs down. We're very much aligned, I think, in terms of the reason, like our feedback of it. The first half was really, really fun. It just got overloaded. It was trying to do too much, and I was kind of like bored and not even really confused by like the sequence of events in the kind of cinematic finale when it wasn't a documentary anymore. Just not particularly interested because like we knew how it was going to end. So it's a bit weird. It's like they're trying to show their hand, but then like still have you be like surprised by the twist. Whatever. So it's like a 2 because I don't even know what a 1 would be. Like, to be honest, like we haven't really watched ones. I think it's a 2 because that mask fucking scares the shit out of me.
It was a creepy mask.
Yeah, it was a great mask. I think there were moments when I was genuinely tense, like when the old lady's like monologuing. I'm like, we're gonna see her like throat explode as a blade slices through it or something like that. So I'm just like, so it's not like watching Crazy Rich Asians or something like that.
Which I saw last night. So good.
It's so good.
It was
Spin-off
delightful.
podcast. It is a 5 though because of that dishonest, unethical consumption that's on display. That's right, all Asians, we're coming for you.
Check out our new podcast, White People Talk About Crazy Rich Asians.
Also, I'm reading the book. It's not good. Anyway.
Oh my God, Steven.
Shots
It's
fired.
not great. It's bad writing, but the movie's wonderful. So that's my review of Crazy Rich Asians on this horror podcast. So I give this a 2. I think it's also bad acting. Like the filmmaking doesn't even really bother me because like I'm like more inclined to be like, hey, points for trying. You did the thing. You made a movie. That's amazing. But Kelly sucks, and then Doug and Todd are awful actors too, and then everybody else is kind of a mixed bag. Thumbs down 2. Little nuzzles with my turtles.
Oh yeah, there were some cute turtles.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in this movie has ever smoked weed based on how those stoners were portrayed. I love smoking half of a joint with my friend, and then we cannot speak.
And you're lobotomized.
Yeah.
I love my favorite method of smoking weed is having an ice pick shoved into my nostril.
What is the best cinematic representation of like stoners or being stoned?
Oh.
Probably like Knocked Up or any of those movies where they're all real stoners.
Yeah. So they're not
Pineapple
even
Express.
acting. Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're real stoners.
Yeah.
They're exaggerating it, but like.
For me, it's Candyman because of my weird mirror edibles incident that I told you guys about. Anyway, maybe you don't.
Anyway,
remember.
let's. Kyle's grades.
Folks, it was bound to happen sometime.
You're giving a thumbs down.
I'm giving a thumbs down.
I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's my first thumbs down. Behind the Mask, my first thumbs down.
You'd seen it before?
I'd seen it before,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking, "Oh, cool premise. This sucks." Kind of. And I didn't remember that I remembered that, like, before, like, I didn't remember the "this sucks" part. I just remember watching the movie and didn't remember many specifics about it, which is usually a sign that, like, I didn't really like it. But yeah, I did not like this movie.
You didn't like the first half?
No.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
I thought it was
Okay.
cool.
Okay.
You're allowed. This was.
Finally Emma's turn to like something that I didn't. Yeah, I felt like it was trite. The observations in the first half were pretty surface level, and it's that satire thing where it's just kind of like it's just straight up saying the thing, and it's not.
It's weird because this is like fan fiction that fans probably wouldn't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
horror fans love it. Like,
okay.
like horror fans really like this movie. I just felt like it was just kind of.
You're an intellectual.
Well, no. I mean, yes.
Horror fans
obviously.
just like feeling seen, I think.
Yeah. They like anything that preaches to the choir. Like, they really like that shit. And I don't know.
Yeah, it is like the whole cabin surrounded by a dome. That is what it's like.
I do love that movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that is honestly maybe coloring my perception of this one a little bit. It's just like Cabin in the Woods did it so well that like,
Well,
and I
like
know
this
that's not
French
fair
thing
to
did
this
it well,
movie.
too.
It did. It's not fair to this movie because that came out way later. But that's the world that we're in right now.
But you are
So-
ready. You are prepared to stake your reputation on Joss Whedon.
What are
Yes, I
What's
love
your
Joss
scare
Whedon, and
level?
I don't think he's ever done anything problematic. My scared level is
Gotta be a
1 out of
1.
5.
I knew you were gonna say
yeah,
that.
1 out of 5. Huge nipples.
Those are soothing.
Yeah, those calm me down
Okay.
because I'm a little baby.
So,
All right.
Adam, what about you?
Okay. I've been doing this thing where I go back and watch movies that I really enjoyed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, sometimes 20 years
It's
ago.
soul crushing.
World of
And
Hurt,
it's
yeah.
always really cool when it's always really cool when I find a movie that actually holds up, or I see things in it that I didn't even see the first couple times I watched it. Like I just rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit for
Oh,
the
hell
first time
yeah.
in like 10 years, and that movie holds up. That is a very good, very well done movie. This movie I'm giving a thumbs down because it's the opposite experience for me. I did not remember it being that bad or even that low budget. I was not even, I'm telling you, when I first saw this movie, I had never drank, I had never smoked weed.
So cute.
So I was not,
You were the virgin.
I can't. Yes, I was the virgin. So maybe that's it. Maybe if you enjoy this movie, you're a virgin.
Calling you out, nerds.
This movie. That's why they talk about virgins so much. Is because that's the only group of people who will ever watch this movie. So they did like SEO. Like if we just say virgin, virgins will come to this movie when they type their own name into Google.
Because your name is virgin until you have sex.
And is it 1 out of 5?
One out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scaries.
Because of the mask was really cool. It was very simple
My
but
dude.
creepy. It had like big blank features, which is some of the scariest things you can do. And also there was an unspoken horror where so you know how he just followed the 17-year-old girls around for days on end, and the only reason it was weird was because he planned to elaborately kill them. And at no point where they were just like, oh, but you shouldn't just be following women, especially little girls. You should
Children,
not
yeah.
be following little girls or women. Old women too. You should not follow 90-year-old women. You should not follow 15-year-old women.
So what
to
I'm
and
hearing
from
from
school.
you is you're not a big fan of following women. All right.
Yeah, you shouldn't do
You
it.
heard it here first, folks. Adam doesn't follow any women on Twitter. He hates women comedians.
That's what I was getting to. Thank you. So I'm going to give it 2 8-hour sensory deprivation tank sessions.
Hell yeah. All right, well, we watched that movie. Not really mixed reviews. I guess we can't come out strongly in favor of it, but maybe if you're a 20-year-old
be worth
virgin.
watching it.
Yeah, you got Shudder.
It's worth watching.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, it's not.
Oh, guys,
I hated it, but it's worth watching.
what about a prequel to 40-Year-Old Virgin called The 20-Year-Old Virgin?
And it's just a milder version.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay, dude.
Yeah, everybody's like, it's
He's
fine. Yeah, this is
fine.
reasonable. It's a little late, but you'll be all right.
Yeah,
not that
nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
Because you write.
But in this
you write your
world-
parents whenever you lose your virginity. Hello, mother. Hello, father. I lost my boy Jerry.
Well, no. See, it works because he's a 20-year-old virgin, but everybody in his world is that kid who was like, yeah, I had sex when I was 12.
Honestly,
He's in middle school. Everybody's like, yeah, me and my girlfriend took a shower together.
for real though, that is how I felt when I went to college, and I went from being a friend of many other virgins and choosing to stay a virgin, and then I got to college and everyone had fucked, and I was like, oh shit, I fucked this up.
I gotta go fuck.
Like, it was totally a social thing. It was like,
Yeah.
I was just like, I guess I gotta fuck.
You gotta fuck now.
Everybody's talking about dicks
and I
and
did. I
pussies
felt
and-
like a 40-year-old virgin,
Yeah.
and now it's like I wasn't that old. It was fine.
I remember walking the track in middle school, and this guy, no, it was the 9th grade, and a guy who I was in gym with was telling us about a friend that we'd gone to middle school with who'd had sex that weekend, and he's like, yeah, and she she squirted everywhere. And I, the authority on female anatomy, was like, no, it's the boys who squirt. So I just rejected it out of turn. I was like, he made it up. It's a total, he's a liar.
you were in middle school?
This was the 9th grade.
That's fine.
I know, but still looking back on it, I was
That's
like,
so cute. You just wanted to help him.
I just wanted to be the authority on. All right, squirting. Speaking of squirting, Adam, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram.
Very funny on Twitter.
Oh, thank you.
Very good Twitter.
Very good on Facebook too. I don't know if that shit is connected, but you're good online, my dude.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Frustratingly good online.
It is upsetting. You're a very good joke writer.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Hrabik, Ahrabik. I have a podcast that comes out. We try to put one out every Friday. It's with my friend, the very funny comedian Avery Moore.
Super funny.
Insanely funny. She just went to Just for Laughs, which is the big comedy festival.
You're cool about it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Rising Tide.
We're all in boats, man. Come on.
I'll ride any coattail I can. I want friends to succeed.
And this Rising Tide is crimson red, the same shade as Santa's coat, because we host a Christmas-based podcast called Avery and Adam's Christmas Committee, the podcast. It's a year-round Christmas podcast.
So good.
Such a fun premise.
And then we are Deaf Afraid on everything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then that live show that might be happening in October. Is that premature? Should I edit this out?
It is confirmed, but we probably should wait to
TBD.
say something.
So
about
Ooh,
it.
keep
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah, keep listening
We
to
might
the
have another live show coming up in October.
all
yeah.
you wet daddies who are in Austin, keep listening to the last minute and 30 seconds of this podcast to find
We
out
got
when that
something
is.
for that ass.
That's it.
Oh,
Oh,
can I plug 3 on a Match has 2 more shows for our 5-year anniversary run.
Yeah.
We old. Opening for Movie Riot, which someone in this room was in, but she's not allowed a microphone. And then also Pendulum has a run coming up. Please come see it. We love
You can
that.
find dates and deets for that at coldtowntheater.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. That was fun.
Yeah.
Keeping that in.
Oh, wait, are we still on?